What is up, my valued peeps? Cadian here. Monsters of the Week have been a staple throughout all of Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. But one sort of monster both franchises have had are monsters based on the series' past heroes. The last season of Heisei Kamen Rider Zio had the Anana Riders, and the most recently finished season of Super Sentai, Avatar Sentai donbrothers, had the Hitotsuki. These are in fact my favourite monsters of each franchise, and in today's video I will be comparing the two. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe and share it. Join my Patreon for just £2 a month to see videos early, and let's get started! So I'm going to be comparing the two sets of monsters across three categories. First up, how do they come to be? Well, the Anana Riders are created when an Anana Watch, a corrupted type of ride watch that has absorbed the power of a Kamen Rider and can only be created by a time jacker, is inserted into someone. Most of the time it's someone else, but on a few occasions it has been the time jacker who created it. Once inserted, the host transforms into an Anana Rider of the rider whose power was contained within the Anana Watch. An Anana Rider being created in the year of the original series erases the series' timeline, but one created in the present day doesn't affect it at all. As for the Hitotsuki, they don't require a gimmick item, but they can come about in a couple different ways. Most of the time, it happens when someone is consumed by their desire, but on 4 occasions it has been forced by the Noto, either by forcing the victim's desire into overdrive or by having a near-mature Hitotsuki forcibly transferred onto them from someone else or having enough built-up desire. This second method being the only possible one for Noto, as they could never become one otherwise. Unlike Anana Riders though, some Hitotsuki can turn into giant forms called Hitotsuking upon being defeated by the donbrothers. There's no pattern of who becomes a Hitotsuking besides their defeat by the donbrothers. Both Anana Rider and Hitotsuki hosts have no limit on how many times they can become one, such as with Ryuichi Sakuma and Hiryu Kakugawa for the Anana Riders, and Minoru Ono, Tsuyoshi Kijino, and Tamaki for the Hitotsuki. Overall, two very different transformation methods, but how do the resulting monsters look? The Anana Riders are all monstrous versions of the riders whose power they have. Somewhere on their bodies they have the name of the rider they're based on, along with the year of their creation, and sometimes feature aspects of the monsters from the seasons the original riders from. For the first half of Zio, including the ones in the crossover movie with Build, this year is the same as the one the base Riders series started in, but from the second half of Zio onwards, the Anana Riders are created in the then present day of 2019. While most Anana Riders are human-sized, they have been giant on a couple occasions with Anana Kuga and Anana Ichigo. Some of my favourite Anana Rider designs include Anana Ryuki, Anana Drive, and Anana Decade. The Hitotsuki are based on past Sentai for the most part. There have been 8 Hitotsuki not based on any Sentai, but other than those ones, every Hitotsuki is based on a past Sentai. And given Sentai are teams of heroes, these Hitotsuki are based on the motifs of the entire team they're based on, rather than a singular ranger from the team, with the lower bodies being that of either Benitsuki or Shisotsuki. As for the Hitotsuki, they are giant grey humanoids with jagged armour and accent colours throughout, usually referencing the mecha from their base series, though later ones just had the default body with the head of the Hitotsuki, and 2 were non-humanoid train-like monsters. Some of my favourite Hitotsuki designs include Kyoriyuki, Seijuki, and Himitsuki, and some of my favourite Hitotsuki designs include Kosoku King, Juken King, and Kyukyu King. So one set of monsters are monstrous versions of Kamen Riders, and the other are based on the motifs of an entire team, and reference mecha of the team they're based on as giants. Then how can they be defeated? This time I'll do the Hitotsuki first, as they're a lot easier to talk about. They can be defeated by anyone, but the result will be different depending on who does. As briefly covered earlier, Hitotsuki defeated by the donbrothers will either turn into Hitotsuking or revert back to their host. This is random every time. When a Hitotsuki gets defeated by a Noto, they get trapped inside a cube and transported to another dimension from which they can't be freed, unless someone gets transported with them and frees them from inside, or someone spins the Ring of Forgiveness in the Forest of Slumber. With the former method though, they turn back into their Hitotsuki form afterwards. When a Hitotsuking is defeated by a donbrothers mecha, they revert back to their host. But when defeated by a non-donbrothers mecha, which has only happened once, they revert back to their Hitotsuki form. How are a Nanoriders defeated? Well, that is one heck of a complicated question to answer. Anyone can defeat an Nanorider, but if not defeated the correct way, they will only be temporarily knocked out of their transformation, reverting back to being in a Nanorider moments later. There are a few ways to permanently defeat a Nanorider though. The initial way shown was being defeated by the original rider's power, whether it be by a rider armor based on the rider, including a time machine piloted by one, or an alternate form of the decade armor based on the rider. The second way shown was via a form that could bypass the need for the original rider's power, by manipulating time in some way. These forms include Geo 2, Geo Trinity, both modes of Gates Revive, and all three forms of War's Ginga. The third way shown is sort of an extension of the first way, by using a form with multiple different rider powers, these including Grand Geo, Oma Geo, Geo Oma form, and Gates Majesty. You may think, that doesn't sound too complicated though. For the most part you're right, but sometimes Geo didn't even follow the rules that it set down, thus making it complicated in specific scenarios. So yeah, there's a few different ways one can be defeated, but the way a Nana 01 was defeated, well, it doesn't really fit any of the previous explanations. It was defeated by completely regular finishes from Kamen Riders Vulcan and Valkyrie. While they're riders from Kamen Rider 01, neither of them are Kamen Rider 01 themselves. The only thing I can think of is a fourth method of defeating a Nanoriders, that riders from the series the Nanorider is based on can defeat them. It's weird to try and explain, and honestly the same could be said for a lot of stuff in Geo. Thus, defeating a Nanorider ends up being a lot more complicated than defeating a Hitotsuki or a Hitotsuking. So, in the end, which do I prefer? Well, personally I'm more of an aesthetics gal, so despite how complicated they can be to explain sometimes, I prefer the Nanoriders. While I do love the sheer diversity of the Hitotsuki's designs, they all share the same base body as the show's first two Hitotsuki, and I do prefer Kamen Rider in general as is. So that was my comparison of the Nanoriders and the Hitotsuki. This was an interesting topic to write about, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know which set of monsters you prefer, and which is your favourite one of each down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and share this video, and I'll see all your valid peeps next time!